Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So, we keep finding awesome guests. We keep thinking, hey, we're going to run out of awesome people to find, but we just don't. Today's guest is no exception. Mark Stubbles is joining us today. Mark experienced a lot of anxiety growing up, and he struggled with several things in his life. He's very candid talking about those things, which we really appreciate. But the key here is he found a solution in hypnotherapy. I don't know anything about hypnotherapy, but I love learning new things. Mark learned so much through hypnotherapy that he actually became a hypnotherapist and is helping other people deal with their issues through hypnotherapy. And he's going to walk us through quite a bit of that on the podcast. He's written 4 books. He talks about kind of learning how to rewire your brain through hypnosis and hypnotherapy. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. We're really glad that Mark chose to join us. So without further ado, let's bring him onto the show right now. So Mark, welcome to Salty Ginger Talk. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really, I've been really been looking forward to this conversation for a variety of reasons. One, you and I had a great conversation a couple of months ago, and really like talking to people that have a similar mindset about building good lives and helping other people build lives that they want to live. And then two, you are in fact a hypnotherapist, but you've traveled a very interesting path to get there. And I don't know much about hypnotherapy. I don't know much about hypnosis. And so I personally am really interested in learning about it. So I get a free education just from having a conversation with a cool person. And that's a win for me. So
Fantastic. How did you find the book? Did you have a chance to read it?
I have not had a chance to read it yet. We have a lot of folks on with books. And so what I try to do is go through and hit high points of books. It's just a volume thing. I can't read fast enough to keep up with all our guests, to be straightforward. So um, we recorded we recorded an episode right before this with a gentleman who wrote a book with 57 sales, and loved talking to him and hearing about sales tips. And so nothing like getting it straight from the author's mouth when it comes to the books and promoting the book and making sure our listeners know about it so that they can partake in that if they choose to. So but yeah, so wouldn't mind. It'd be great to start off. You came to hypnosis through some personal experience first as someone who dealt with challenges through hypnosis, and then that led you to understand the process better. And now you are, in fact, a hypnotherapist. So if we could start way back at the beginning, talk a little bit about what your life was like and what led you to seek out help through hypnosis to begin with. How did it all start?
Well, I grew up with quite a lot of dysfunction, although it was quite dysfunctional. Um, and that caused me to generate a lot of issues with anxiety. Um, when I left school, I couldn't keep a job, went through like hundreds of jobs before I was 21. Um, Relationships were messy. I couldn't have a relationship, couldn't maintain a relationship. Um, and then I met my now ex-wife, and she kind of gave me some stability. I was able to stick to a job. But yeah, it was a dysfunctional marriage. I certainly recreated the dynamics from my childhood in my marriage. And then yeah, after 7 years, we had a messy divorce, which could, involved custody battles that went on for like 5 years, gave me PTSD. Um, And I just reached the point where I decided that things needed to change. I kept getting into bad relationships. Work was a nightmare for me. I, yeah, like I said, I went through a lot of jobs. And so I decided things needed to change. I tried counseling. It didn't really do much for me. I didn't find it very helpful. So I tried hypnotherapy, and hypnotherapy was the only thing that seemed to make a difference. So that was what I went along with. Um, and I was better, I was more confident, less anxious, but I still wasn't happy in my work situation. So I started looking around, seeing what I could do. I wanted to help people, I wanted to make a difference in the world, and hypnotherapy was what I decided I wanted to do. So that was what I trained in, and yeah, I became a hypnotherapist.
Got it. What and this is a legit question. I'm personally, and this isn't a value judgment in any way, shape, or form, just people are different. I don't get anxious a lot. What does anxiety feel like to you? How does it manifest itself physically? What thoughts run through your head? How would you describe anxiety to another person?
Kind of thoughts that run through your head are like you're gonna f this up. Everyone is gonna think you're a weirdo. You know, people are laughing at you behind your back. I had a phobia of blushing. I'm ginger, so I go red quite easily. Um, one of
Gingers unite. Gingers unite. That's I can vouch for that. Like there's no hiding it when you're embarrassed. You turn bright red. Yeah.
Yeah, very easily. And so I developed a phobia of that. And one of the symptoms of anxiety is blushing. So the more anxious I got, the more I would blush. Um, and that caused me issues in all kinds of social situations. It caused me to have a very small social circle, very few friends. Um, the friends I did have were as dysfunctional as I was. So, yeah, it didn't manifest well. You're
No,
muted.
sorry, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And the reason I asked is because one, it's helpful for me to understand, and two, I want audience members who have similar thoughts or similar feelings to be able to identify those because if there's challenges that you have to deal with, you have to be able to identify what those challenges are before you can deal with them. So I really appreciate you being candid about that and sharing that knowledge and experience with our audience. So you get out of school, things aren't going great. You kind of recognize that you're not happy with your group of friends. You wind up in a marriage that winds up being difficult. And even when that marriage ends, it becomes more difficult because you've got kind of this ugly custody battle that runs your life for about 5 years. What about regular therapy do you think, why do you think it didn't work for you? Do you know?
Yeah, I didn't like the counselor, uh, and I didn't like talking about, you know, my thoughts and my feelings. Um, when you grow up with dysfunction, and most people grow up with some form of dysfunction, some estimates say that as much as 80% of people grow up with some form of dysfunction. You internalize that dysfunction. A child doesn't want to see their parents as bad, so they internalize it. They think it means there's something wrong with them, that they are bad. And so, yeah, I didn't like talking about my issues. I also felt the counselor was very judgmental. Um, you know, a lot of counselors, they go through traditional type of training, shall we say. They go through university, and they are indoctrinated into a narrative that, all men are bad and all women are the victim. Um, and that might have been my projection at the time, because that was kind of the mode I was in. But yeah, I picked that up from the counselor, and I didn't like it.
Got it. So you're still searching. You realize you had said, "Hey, I got to make some changes. I'm not going to continue to live like this." What was the how did you come across hypnotherapy as a possibility? Did you say, "Hey, maybe hypnosis will work"? Did someone recommend it? How did you come across it to help you?
I first started listening to YouTube videos, and I was a bit wary of them at first. I thought, it's going to make me do stupid stuff, or you know like, well, what's it gonna program me to do. As a Again, going back to childhood, Paul McKenna, he was a big hypnotist in Britain, well, all over the world, I suppose. But yeah, his shows used to be on TV, and they were very uh, cringy, very cringe-worthy. So I suppose I didn't develop the best image of hypnotists. Um, so yeah, I first started listening to recordings on YouTube, and I noticed that they were working. So then I went to Google and I found a hypnotherapist who I went and had some sessions with. I found that works even better. So that was how I got into it. That was how I discovered it.
Got it. How does hypnotherapy work? Like, what is the process like? I have no idea if this is right, but the way it's portrayed, like in movies and television shows, is someone waving a watch or some type of pendulum in front of you, says you're getting sleepy, blah blah blah. Right? My bet is that's probably not how it works in the in the real world. But what does it look like in the real world? And then we'll get into how it works in your head.
Hypnosis is just a focused state of attention. Um, and again, a lot of people have misconceptions about hypnosis. They think it's manipulative, or you know, whatever. The fact is that all conversations can be hypnotic, and people are being exposed to manipulation and NLP techniques, hypnosis techniques all the time through the news, the media. They're being constantly bombarded. When you watch TV, you go into a hypnotic state. It's actually been shown that, TV is hypnotic. So there's all kinds of ways that people are being exposed to hypnosis and mind control without even realizing it. So hypnosis itself is just a focused state of attention. The way it works when people come to me for a session, all my sessions are online. So they book a call, and yeah, we would do a probably 45 minutes to an hour of talking therapy, where I use a lot of conversational hypnosis, NLP techniques, and then close your eyes, go into hypnosis. Formal, what people would consider hypnosis, is the next part of the session. That lasts 30 to 30 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour, I should say.
Got it. And before you go into a hypnosis therapy session, do you how do you identify what you're working on? Like, does the patient say, "Hey, I'm anxious a lot," or "I can't stop biting my fingernails," or "I want to quit smoking"? I'm throwing out examples, but how do you know what to work on during a hypnotherapy session?
Yeah, most of the people that come to me, they come to me because they have anxiety, um, or inner child issues that they want to work on. Again, most issues have their root in childhood, relationship issues. If you try bonding with an unhealed inner child, you're going to be making unconscious contracts with people who complement your family system. So relationship issues generally have their root in childhood. I've also helped people with PTSD. People tell me what they want to work on, and then that's what we work on.
Got it. So you just said something that I find very interesting. I want to take a little detour here. So I think what I heard you say was people establish relationships with people who are complementary to their family. So I
Yeah.
think what you're saying there is if my mom, like, I'll just use me because it's easy. If my mom is a certain way, let's say my mom is aggressive, I am going to form relationships with other aggressive women because I modeled that relationship off of my mom. Is that right?
Yeah, that's going to normalize it for you. You're going to think, well, that's just the way women are. And so when you meet a woman that's aggressive, you're going to think, well, that's normal. That's the way they all are. Um, Even if they are, sweet as pie, and you get into a relationship with them, you may do things to make them become more like your mother, because that is how you've learned to interact with people. That is how you'll have become comfortable interacting with people.
Got it. So it's human nature, or we're hardwired to model other relationships off of the first relationships that we establish. Is that right?
Yeah, especially with the mother. The mother is the most important relationship for any child. It forms the foundation for all future relationships, including your relationship with yourself. So if you
Gotcha.
don't have a good relationship with your mother, you're in trouble.
My mom watches my podcast, so mom, Mark's full of it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm just kidding around, Mark. But no, I appreciate that's interesting. I've never heard that. I've never heard that expressed the way you just expressed it. That's I find that fascinating. So could you tell right away that when you started watching YouTube videos and you said they had an effect, they were helping, and so you sought out a hypnotherapist. Could you tell quickly that your sessions with a hypnotherapist were helping you with the things you wanted to improve on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. After the first session, I noticed a massive improvement. First time I did hypnotherapy with a hypnotherapist in person, I actually felt quite sick. I relaxed so deeply that I actually felt like I wanted to vomit. It's yeah,
Wow, really?
yeah.
That's super interesting. Do you think that's because, so you said you relaxed. Do you think that was like your body's way of kind of releasing all this tension and angst that it had been holding on to for a long time?
Yeah, it's very rare, but it can be one of the, I don't want to say symptoms, but it can be one you can experience it when you go into hypnosis. Yes.
Got it. super. I did not know that. Never heard it. That's super interesting. Um, so
So
yeah, that's great. So, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
that acted as a powerful convincer to me that I've gone into a different state, and yeah, that really made the changes take effect quickly.
Got it. And so, do you think, or I don't know if think's the right word, but is hypnosis targeting your subconscious to try to kind of rewire the way your body sends signals to the brain? Or how does, well, at its core, what is hypnosis targeting? How does it make it better? How does it work? Do you know?
There's a lot of argument about that. If you look in the hypnotherapy groups on Facebook, you'll see a lot of people very much say that the subconscious mind doesn't exist, that, you know, giving all their theories, there's no scientific evidence for a subconscious mind or even an altered state of being when someone goes into hypnosis. No, it's all about suggestion. And then there's other people, obviously, like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, who very much believe in the subconscious mind and, the altered states of reality. So there's no evidence either way, but I know it works.
Sure. No, I just was curious if there was prevailing thought on it. It sounds like you're saying it's still very debated in the
Yep.
hypnosis community. So got it. That's good to know.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
some tests, some studies have shown that when people go into hypnosis, they're accessing the theta brainwave state. Theta brainwave state is part of the REM sleep cycle. So the symptoms or features of the theta brainwave state are catalepsy, so your arms and legs go loose and limp and heavy because if you were dreaming, you don't want to get up and act out your dreams. Eye movement, rapid eye movement, that's why it's called the REM state. So with hypnosis, you experience all of those things, or most people experience all of those things. So it's thought that when we use hypnosis, we're accessing that theta brainwave state, which is thought to be a hyper learning state. It's said that children up until the age of 7 is known as the imprint period. That's when your neuroplasticity is at its highest, when you're learning the most complex and difficult tasks. It's also thought that dreams are your mind's way of processing information. If you didn't dream, you'd go mad. And again, they've done tests on that where they stopped people dreaming and they found that within a couple of days they were having very severe mental issues. So yeah, it's thought that hypnosis is accessing that state and allowing someone to process trauma and information and also to see themselves the way they want to be. And your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. So just by imagining yourself the way you want to be, you actually create new neural pathways in your brain. And yeah, does that answer your question?
Totally. So that manifests itself, what you just talked about. So you access this area of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain now can't tell the difference between the thoughts you want it to have and reality. So those thoughts manifest themselves in reality, thus helping you with whatever your challenges are or whatever you're seeking to change. Is that right?
Yeah, not just thoughts, by visualizing yourself the way you want to be. So, if, say, someone is anxious about public speaking, you can use hypnosis to allow them to rehearse standing in front of an audience and public speaking, and they will be creating new neural pathways as though they've actually done that. And then when it comes time for them to actually do it, it'll be like, oh, I've done this before. There's no need to panic.
Got it. Yeah, that's super interesting. Wow. Um, so you went through this process and it helped you immensely, so much that you decided to become a hypnotherapist. So talk us through a little bit about how you made that decision and what the process was you went through to become a hypnotherapist, the training, the education, however you went about it. Walk us through that.
Um, well, after my divorce, as I said, had a I had other relationship issues. I decided that things had to change, and because of my anxiety, I ended up working online from home doing SEO, and that was great at first. I loved it for like the first year, but then after a while, it just started to really get me down, spending all my time on my own, and you know, it it just wasn't good. So I decided to, as I said, try hypnotherapy to deal with my own issues, because I recognized that it was my anxiety that had caused me to isolate myself. It was my anxiety that had caused me to get into bad relationships. So, yeah, after I had the first couple of hypnosis sessions, I decided to start looking for training. So I did a course that was an online course, lasted 6 months. That was the first hypnosis training I did. And then I did a in-person hypnosis training with the person that I'd actually been having hypnotherapy sessions with. And yeah, I did loads of courses. Did life coaching courses, CBT courses, NLP courses. I did EFT, did an EFT course. I did stage hypnosis training. Did I just went into it and got on every course and training program I could find.
Got it. So you were educating yourself. If someone wanted to become a hypnotherapist, it's not like you say, I'm going to be a doctor and you go through undergraduate, you take the MCAT, you go through medical school, you do a residency, you do an internship, and then you pass boards and you become a
Mm-hmm.
doctor. There's no path like that for hypnotherapy.
No, there's no path like that. It's not. It's it's an unregulated profession. So in the UK, there is the main professional body is called the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council. So if wanna you wanna get accreditation with them, you have to do training with their accredited trainers. But most professional bodies are just set up to sell training. It's just like, oh, do training with us, and we'll accredit you with this. You can put these letters after your name or whatever. So yeah, there's um, no defined path.
Yeah, I I'm just curious, and me personally, I don't put a lot of stock into the initials that come after somebody's name. I always say that whether it's a doctor or a lawyer, there's a reason that it's called a practice when they do it. There's they don't, and I'm not trying to denigrate doctors and lawyers. There's tons of good doctors and tons of good lawyers out there. However, they're still figuring things out. They don't have all the answers, and a good doctor or lawyer will tell you that. Just look, maybe I don't know everything, but I can research it. I can talk to colleagues. There's things I can do to educate myself and help you with your particular situation. But people put, in my opinion, put a premium on advice that comes from a doctor or a lawyer without really knowing if they should or not. And sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not warranted. All I'm saying is you should ask a lot of questions and educate yourself. So I appreciate you walking through kind of the options that exist in the hypnotherapy world. But so you go through all this training. How did you establish your business? Like, how did you let people know, hey, I'm trained, I know how hypnotherapy works, and I think I can help you? How did you go about that?
Well, when I first decided to become a hypnotherapist, I thought it'll be it'll be easy because I know all about online marketing. I know all about SEO. Most hypnotherapists, old grannies. So I thought I'm going to have no issues, marketing myself in this industry. But then once I got qualified, for some reason, I turned into I don't know, I developed an old granny mindset, and people were calling me up for AdWords advertising, and you pay them £150 and they spend £10 on Google ads getting you ranking for something that no one's searching for. And I wasted money on all kinds of rubbish. And I didn't have any real success, although I did find a few stop smoking clients by running Facebook ads. I did that for a few months. But yeah, as a whole, I was pretty much losing money until COVID happened. And then everything was shut down and I had to move online. And I started thinking about, what can I do to help people? And I was thinking, well, there's lots of anxiety in the world. Lots of people are obviously very anxious right now. So I went on Meetup and I scheduled an anxiety workshop. And about 40 people turned up to that. And I got a couple of clients from that. And then, yeah, that was that then. I just kept scheduling workshops, and that was where my clients were coming from.
Smart. Yeah, that's a really good approach. That seems very personal. Like people were able to get to know you and get to be comfortable with you before committing as a client. That seems like a really smart approach. Clearly it's worked, which is great. But yeah, there's a lesson to be learned there for all of you entrepreneurs that are listening. If the way you're trying things isn't working, try something different, because if you keep taking action and you keep trying different things, you're going to come across something that works for you if you stick with it. So, yeah, that's great. That's very cool. What is, so I want to talk a little bit about PTSD, because I think most people, and myself included, I think when most people think about PTSD, they think about like someone that served in a war and has experienced really terrible things in a war. But it's been my understanding from doing this podcast and talking to lots of different people that PTSD can happen in all different areas of your life. So if you wouldn't mind, spend a few minutes kind of talking through what is PTSD, what are some of the things that can lead to PTSD, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, there's PTSD and then there's CPTSD. So PTSD, it would be like a one-off like event, the activating event, and then the person would experience something that revivifies the memory of that activating event, causes them to flash back to it, relive the activating event. They get anxiety, all kinds of issues. CPTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder suffered by prisoners of war, children who grow up in dysfunctional families. For CPTSD to form, there needs to be ongoing repeated abuse from which there's no escape and a reliance on your abusers. So most people, as I said, most people grow up with dysfunction. Most people develop CPTSD. And I would say there is no PTSD without CPTSD. They found that people can experience exactly the same activating event, but one person will walk away without, any PTSD, and another person will develop PTSD, because someone who has grown up with dysfunction, they won't be able to process trauma effectively. They won't have a healthy relationship with their emotions. And so that activating event, although it can be really bad and terrible, the PTSD has been caused by, their childhood and not developing a healthy relationship with their emotions.
Got it. So I've never heard of CPTSD until you said it right now. That's very interesting. And so what you described, like that would be, let's say your dad is abusive, and like you live with your dad, you count on him for, keeping a roof over your head and keeping the lights on and the heat on. And so you're there. There's no way to get out of it, and you have to deal with that over an extended period of time. And then somewhere down the road, you experience a one-time traumatic event, but because you've kind of been worn down by this constant trauma, you experience it at a much different, or it's a much more pronounced reaction that you have to it than maybe another person. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And, it doesn't have to be extreme abuse. The child needs what are known as good enough parents. A good enough parent provides unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. The child's going to know that they'll get their needs met no matter what. Again, most people don't have that. So they develop the message that there's something wrong with them. They learn to look outside of themselves to feel okay. So yeah, it doesn't have to be extreme abuse. Like, I knew I didn't have a happy childhood, but as I said, I internalized it. I thought there was something wrong with me. It wasn't until I started to heal it that I realized that no, my family were bonkers.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you've said a couple of times that up to some estimates put up to 80% of people have trauma and or dysfunction in their childhood. So just by definition, people that grow up with, call it good enough parents, using the term you just used, they're the weirdos. They're the outliers actually in in this whole thing when you think about it, right? That's abnormal to not have that in your past. And I call that out because I think a lot of people, we usually have a good time on the podcast. We have great conversations. We have high caliber people like yourself on. And even when we're talking about really difficult subjects. We've had guests on that have talked about being the victims of incest and rape under the age of 5. We've had folks on who've lost children to accidents or illnesses or those kind of things. So those, those are heavy subjects. Those are really difficult things to deal with in life. And
Absolutely.
and they've all said what helped them get through it is when they made connections with other people who understood what they had gone through. And there's actually tons of people out there that have probably experienced something like you have. And so a lot I'm running on at the mouth here because most people think you could never understand. What Mark's saying and the estimates that he's giving is more people could probably understand than couldn't. And
Yeah.
so you got to open your mouth and ask for help or talk about it with somebody. And that's the only way you're going to get past it. Otherwise, it's going to continue to weigh you down. And like Mark's a perfect example of that. He's talked about it several times already in our conversation that he got to the point where he said, I'm not going to continue living like this. I have to make some changes. And he took action to make those changes. So, now you've built a client base through your meetups and things like that. Are all your sessions online now? Do you do any stuff in person anymore? Or is it all online now?
No, since COVID, it's all been online.
And so anyone anywhere in the world could seek your services so long as they have an internet connection and can use Zoom or Teams or whatever you use, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Anyone can book a call with me.
that's awesome. Now, not only have you built this business and done all of the kind of training and work that you've done to get to this point, you've also written a book. Tell us about your book.
I've written 4 books now. My first book was called Beyond Blushing, and my second book, which I'm most proud of, is called Hypnotic Conversations, The Art of Everyday Influence. So that is, that's good for salespeople. It's good for people that want influence over others. It's good for people that want to be able to influence their, teenage kids without getting into rows with them. If people have got parents who have dementia or something, it could help them. So yeah, hypnotic conversations, the art of everyday influence. So break down all the different ways that hypnosis can be used conversationally.
Wow. What made you decide to write that book? Like you've got your business going. What made you decide that, hey, I need to write a book about this?
Well, I created a course, a Udemy course, which has the same name. And yeah, the book just it accompanies it. It goes with it. So I created the book as well. I'm also very, very heavily, as I said before, people can be influenced via all kinds of mediums, all kinds of ways. And yeah, the world's in a bit of a state. So I think that people would benefit from learning all the ways that they can be manipulated and influenced.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't think it's disputable at all. You're always kind of being pushed or influenced by media, by relationships, by the places you work, the people you hang out with. All of those things are influencing all of us pretty much all of the time. And I think it's naive of people to think that that's not happening. I think when people hear the word influence or persuade, they associate it negatively, and it doesn't need to be negatively, but I think that's where people's minds go when they hear those words. And when you think about it, like all you were doing through hypnosis was trying to influence yourself to take
Hmm.
different actions, to think different thoughts, to handle situations differently. And that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I speak about in the book, it's about creating win-win situations. It's not about um, manipulating people. And if you are trying to manipulate people for personal gain or, in a insincere way, there's something known as uncanny valley effect. They found that if they make um, AI or androids or whatever too human, too lifelike, people become very uncomfortable with them. So if someone is using hypnotic language patterns and things insincerely, people will pick up on that. So
Well, that's
yes.
good. That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I tell people all the time, just be yourself. Like
Hmm.
just be genuine. That's good enough because if you're acting like someone or something you're not to win uh influence or favor with other people, one, you're never going to be able to keep that charade up. It's going to that facade is going to crack at some point, and people can pick up on that. People can pick up on genuineness, and people can pick up on fakeness. And I think it's one of the reasons, like, it's very funny to me. I'm doing a podcast like the one that I'm doing because I'm not in any way touchy feely or squishy or any of those things, but I'm very genuine. This is exactly who I am all of the time, and I'm not judgmental at all. Like I genuinely like to hear other people's thoughts and opinions, especially when they're not thoughts and opinions that I hold personally or that I've been exposed to
Hmm.
before. And so I think that you got to be eyes wide open. The other thing I do is question a lot. So it's rare for me when someone says trust me or just ask me to take something at their word. I rarely do that. I like to understand it before I'm going to sign off on it or before I'm going to dismiss it. Like just because someone may say something that sounds out of the norm or outlandish or whatever you want to call it, I actually don't dismiss it right. Tell me more about that. Like explain that to me and tell me where you're coming from so I can learn more about it.
Yeah.
Which is why I've been so interested in our conversation happening because I don't know a thing about hypnosis and I've learned so much through our conversation. So you said you wrote two other books. What are the other two books about?
Engineering consent, which is about media manipulation, and the dark psychology defense toolkit, which is about how narcissists, it's about how narcissistic tactics are used on an individual level and also on a grand scale, and how to protect yourself from it.
Got it. So the first book was Beyond Blushing. Obviously, that's from personal experience, but it sounds
Mhm.
like the theme across all your books is to try to help people understand how their mind and their brains work so that they can utilize them to the maximum effect to build the best life that they want. Is that is that the common theme across them?
Absolutely, yes. Yes. Um, and yeah, I'm currently working on a second edition of the Hypnotic Conversations book. Um, so yeah, hopefully that'll be available in the next few days.
Oh, wow. So you're almost done with it then. Almost done with the edits?
Yeah, yeah, it's almost complete. And I've created a workbook that will go with the main book. So yeah, it'll be done shortly. The problem, one of the problems I have is that I think of something I want to do, and then once I start on it, I just have to release it. Um, and so yeah, I've decided afterwards. I've thought, oh, maybe I should make a workbook to go with the book, and then I've yeah, I've edited the book to include um, links to the workbook and also making some other changes as well.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, so you talked earlier about before the age of 7, the
Mhm.
brain has the most neuroplasticity, meaning that's when it's easiest for your brain to make new connections and
Yep.
change the way it operates, change the way it thinks.
Mhm.
As an adult, what do you think the key is to relearn behavior and or so when I say relearn behavior, there's I think about things in two ways. There's things you want to start doing, and there's things you want to stop doing.
Mhm.
Start doing. Let's say you're not working out and you want to be healthier and you want to start going to the gym. Stop doing. Let's say that you smoke and you don't want to smoke anymore. Is it
Mhm.
easier to do? Is it easier to quit something you're doing, or is it easier to start doing something new, or are they the same, just with different challenges?
That's a good question. I would say it's easier to start doing something new. Um, it's again, people are more um, they're more loss averse. So stopping doing something that's that loss aversion coming into play, I suppose. Um, but yeah, it's easier to start something new. Um, with regards to smoking, it's if a person really wants to stop smoking, then hypnotherapy can be very effective. If someone doesn't want to stop smoking, then nothing's going to help them. Um,
Hmm.
so, yes.
Yeah,
And with
well, and
habit,
sorry, go ahead.
when
Go ahead.
when forming new habits, it's a good idea to start small. So if you want to exercise more and you don't currently do any exercise, start with a 10-minute walk and then build up from there. Don't just, decide you're going to go to the gym and like pump loads of iron, go all out, and next day you won't be able to move, and then you'll never go back to the gym again. Start small and then build it up from there.
Well, it's a good way to get injured too. Yeah, you're 100% right. On have you ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I haven't.
Yeah, it's a great book. He talks about exactly what you just talked about is when you're starting a new habit or you want to start a new habit, make success so easy that it's impossible to fail. So like
Mm-hmm.
we'll use going to the gym since we're on the topic. He says, make your goal for the first week. I'm going to go to the gym every day this week. I don't even care if you do any exercise. Show up at the gym and make sure you don't miss. Like just get there because you're building a habit. And then what you'll find is once you're there, you're like, well, shit, I'm already here. I should probably go do something. I'll go walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. And that slowly your brain processes that as success and says, well, now, okay, I'm into this a little bit and I want to keep being successful. So I'm going to keep going to the gym. And yesterday I walked 10 minutes. Today I'm going to walk 12 minutes. Tomorrow I'm going to walk 15 minutes. So, but yeah, very interesting. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, there's a lot of great stuff in there. James Clear, I think, does a great job of breaking down kind of that whole habit loop. So, stopping smoking or similar like substance problems, those are interesting to me because there's kind of two components to it, at least the way I think about it. So, like if you're smoking, you very well could be addicted. Your system could be addicted to the nicotine in
Mm-hmm.
cigarettes, which is truly a physical addiction, but then you've got the mental part of it as well. The habit of smoking, the times that you smoke, like after a meal or before you go to bed or on your break at work, whatever they are. Um, does hypnosis help with both of those things? Does it help you overcome the physical addiction and the withdrawal that happens as well as the habits?
Absolutely, it can do, yes. With nicotine and nicotine addiction, that's a bit of a myth. I think it was propagated by tobacco companies to stop people smoking. Um, Nicotine addiction, if someone stops smoking, the worst they're going to get is probably a headache. They're not going to get, it's not like heroin or alcohol where someone stopping it could potentially die. So the physical dependence on it can't be that massive. Um, but yeah, the habit of it, you develop associations like coffee. You have a cup of coffee, you have a cigarette, you know, go on your lunch break, you have a cigarette. So that is really where the addiction is. Again, I would say all addictions come from the inner child. Um, so, yeah, I would say that all addictions come from the inner child. Again, it's not just about dysfunctional parents. When we start school, we get told to shut up, sit down, pay attention. We learn to suppress our emotions. We develop toxic shame, and addictions are a way to, suppress that toxic shame and avoid emotions. Like food is the most common substance that people use to try and suppress their emotions. So emotional eating is the most common form of substance abuse.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard it, but it made total sense to me. I heard it said that food is the most abused substance in the world, and exercise is the least prescribed medicine in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And that made a whole bunch of sense to me when I heard it because a lot of what's wrong with people can be fixed if they fix their nutrition and they get outside and go for a walk or they go for a bike ride or they go for a hike or they work in their garden or whatever your form of physical activity is. Those two things control so much of your life. And if you can fix those two things and get them to a good spot, it sets you up for success for the rest of your life, the other parts of your life.
Absolutely, very true. Yes.
Yep. So I have a theory. I'd be interested to hear your take on this. My theory is everybody is addicted to things, whatever those things are. What you want to try to do is get yourself addicted to good habits or things that are good for you and avoid the things that are bad for you. So, one of the things I try to tell people is if you're going to stop doing something, you got to have something to fill that void. Otherwise, you're going to fill that void with you. If you don't pick it, something will fill that void, and it could be another bad thing. So when you want to stop doing a bad thing, replace it with an addiction to a good thing. What do you think about my theory?
I think that's very good advice. And when I work with someone who has addiction issues, that is advice I give them. Yes.
Really?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel even better about it. Clearly, I thought I was right, but I appreciate your perspective on it as well. So, um, how long do hypnotherapy like? What's the what's the range of hypnotherapy? If someone starts hypnotherapy, is there a point where it no longer becomes necessary? Is it weeks? Is it months? Is it years? I'm sure it depends on the problems that you're working on with them, but walk us through what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Most people notice a difference after the first session. Um, Probably, I mean, it depends on what you're working on. But someone comes to me with, say, fear of public speaking. Um, 3 sessions is usually enough. Um, Someone with PTSD, they generally need 6 sessions. Um, so yeah, it depends entirely on the issue and the person, but probably 99% of people it's 3 to 6 sessions and they've achieved what they wanted to achieve from the hypnotherapy.
Nice. So yeah, and the reason I ask that is I think a lot of people associate whatever treatment they're going through is like forever, right? And that my own personal perspective is that's one of the things that's wrong with the healthcare system in the United States is we want to treat most things with medication instead of lifestyle change. And if you treat it with lifestyle change, you don't need the medication in most instances. Now, like, got it. There's like my son has diabetes. He needs insulin or he doesn't live. Like I get that. He's gonna be using insulin for the rest of his life because his pancreas is not producing insulin. But most things are the symptom of another lifestyle choice. And if you can change that lifestyle choice, you can get off of those medications. You can stop the dependence on pharmaceuticals or whatever the dependence is that you have right now to keep you alive and or healthy. And it sounds like hypnosis can help with those lifestyle changes. That's why I bring it up.
Absolutely, yes. I completely agree. I think that medication, it shouldn't be a long-term solution. It should be a short-term thing. Some people need um, medication. As you said, some people need it for the long term, but for most people, I think it should just be a short term thing and in conjunction with other types of therapy or solutions.
Sure. So it's a stopgap while you're working on fixing the real issue, which is whatever it is you're dealing with. And like Marcus said a couple of times, most of those things are going to tie back to things from your childhood, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Do most people know, like when they come in, do they know that their issues stem from their childhood, or do you have to get them to talk about their childhood to kind of suss that out?
Most people have been to my workshops, so they know that their issues stem from childhood. Yes. But no, you know, I never bring up childhood. I never, um, you know, I I deal with the issue, that the person in front of me brings to me. Um, I never, relate it back to their childhood. Um, I might, I might say, when's the first time you felt like that? Or when's the first time you experienced that? Um, and usually it is in their childhood. But I don't, tell them, oh, it's your parents' fault, and they ruined your life. I don't do things like that.
You don't go straight there. You let them work through it on their own and kind of figure it out because right. You can't know because you weren't there. So like they really need to figure it out on their own so they can get to the true challenge that they're trying to overcome. Um,
Absolutely.
do you think it's possible for let's just take two kids that are 2 years apart and they grow up in the same household.
Hmm.
And like, let's eliminate big things like sexual or physical abuse, but the parents fight, it's a rough environment, et cetera, whatever. Um, is it possible for one of them to come out and say, "Hey, my childhood was great," and the other one to come out and say, "My childhood was tough"? Like, can the same people go through those experiences and have different things, different perceptions of it as they become adults?
Absolutely, because narcissistic parents will often split and they will idealize one child, put them on the pedestal, make them the golden child. Another child they'll make the scapegoat and they'll project all of their insecurities, all of their toxic shame onto that child. Um, so absolutely, they can have different experiences of their childhood. Yeah. Um, if they've both if they both experienced exactly the same treatment, I don't know. I suppose it depends on who they've been exposed to, growing up. If they've been exposed to someone who, changes their focus, teaches them, gratitude journaling or, you know, whatever, maybe they can shift their focus. But yeah, no, I don't think that if they both had exactly the same experience and treatment, I don't think that either of them would say, "Wow, that was an amazing childhood."
Sure, sure. And look, it's almost like it's almost impossible for two people to have identical experiences, right? Because you're not together all the time. You have different friends, you have different activities, and
Yeah.
there's going to be different experiences just through those differences in life, for sure. So getting back to you and your hypnotherapy business, if someone wanted to work with you, would you suggest they start with your course on Udemy? Would you suggest they start by reading your book? Would you suggest they start by reaching out to you? What's the best way for someone to get started down this path with you?
I'd suggest they go to my website, markstubbles.com, and book a call. I don't currently have any workshops scheduled. I plan to schedule some more in September. So on Meetup and Eventbrite, they will find workshops from me then. But yeah, currently, if they wanted to work with me, I'd suggest going to my website.
Got it. That's great. So one of the things I do is just to make sure we don't miss anything, especially important stuff. I feel like I ask good questions and we cover a lot of ground, which is great. But I always open it up to the guest and say, "Hey, is there any question I didn't ask you that I should have? Or is there any subject we haven't talked about? Or is there something you feel strongly about that you want to make sure our listeners hear while we're here together on the podcast?"
Um, No, I think you've covered pretty much everything. You asked great questions. The only thing that I would like people to take away is, as I said earlier, you're being exposed to manipulation and dark psychology tactics all the time, everywhere you go. Um, and yeah, that's it really. And inner child work, spoken a little bit about it. It's not about blaming parents. It's about becoming a good enough parent to yourself. It's not about dwelling in the past or having a victim mentality. So yeah, those are the only two bits I'd like to add.
No, I love that. And that's something we preach on the podcast all the time is you choose to be a victim. You shouldn't, but you choose it. You have control over a lot of stuff. You might need help working through it, and that's fine. Lots of people can help. Mark's one of those people that can help. Hypnotherapy is an option for help. And if you've tried other things and they haven't worked, what do you have to lose by giving it a shot? Maybe you try it and you say, you know what, didn't work for me, not the end of the world. Maybe you try it and it changes your life. Why would you not at least consider it and reach out and give it a chance if you've been struggling with something for a while and you haven't found the solution yet? So, um, yeah, look, Mark, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. You did a great job of walking us through this. It's clear that you have studied this a lot, that you're very well versed in the subject matter, and really appreciate you coming on and exposing our audience to it and sharing all that with our audience. So you don't have to go looking for Mark's website. He gave it on the podcast, but it's going to be in the show notes. We'll have links to his books where you can purchase those in the show notes if you're so inclined. And if you want to get in touch with Mark, just go down to the show notes and look him up. So, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really enjoyed our conversation. You did a great job, and we're really pleased you were able to join us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Yes, same here. So safe travels. Safe travels.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So there you go. Like, we did not oversell Mark in any way, shape, or form. That guy has a ton of experience in this arena. Sounds like he's doing great work. We're really happy that his business is going so well. But, you know, he can take on new clients and he can help you with your challenges if you have them. So if you, like we said at the end, if you've tried stuff and you're still struggling with the same things, what have you got to lose by reaching out to Mark and maybe exploring some hypnotherapy? The worst thing that happens is you try it, it doesn't work for you, or you're not convinced, or whatever the case may be. You don't have to go back, but you could give it a shot. And love the way he talked about things. It's clear that he's done a lot of education on this. It's clear he's really well versed in this, and dispelled some myths that we brought up about hypnosis. And yeah, it's worth giving a shot. So thanks, Mark, so much for coming on. Did a great job. Really happy to have him on the show. He continues a long line of awesome people coming on and sharing great tips, great ideas, and great resources for you to use to build the life that you want. So James puts it up right over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes are available there. We've got links to all the social media accounts there. We've got a newsletter that we publish every weekday that you can subscribe to on the website. And as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful for us when you do that. We're going to keep having awesome people on. We've got just guest after guest stacked up that are awesome, that have great tips, great resources, great ways to think about things to help you build the life that you want. You don't want to miss any of them because they're doing a great job educating us and teaching us and helping us along. Make sure you catch the next episode. We will see you there.